Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome. It's Nurse Richard, the Wax Wizard. Thank you for joining me for this interesting episode. You're probably wondering, what's on earth with the title? Why have you called it ginger earwax? Now, this one was titled by my very young patient, a young girl whose ear this is that you're seeing now. She was young, I think at primary school age, might have been about 5 or 6 possibly. Anyway, she's been having terrible trouble in just one of her ears, and you can see why. She's got a big old lump in there. It's quite stuck and sticky, this one, so it did take quite a fair bit of persuading to get out, but we managed it eventually. It's a fine end tube, this. For anyone that small, I always try and use the fine end tube because you can see better for a start in these really small ears. But it's a lot quieter. We don't want to scare the children in any way. So I find that it's a lot more comfortable, and for the patient, they're less likely to move around because of the noise anyway. But she was really good. She was super statue still. She earned herself a sticker, that's for sure. But a bigger problem behind this was her eardrum was quite retracted. I think she'd been seen by ENT relatively recently, and got quite a nasty case of the glue ear, which they suggested grommets for, but I don't think the young girl was very keen at all. That may have not been the reason for a hearing loss. It may have been because of this. You know, she said she could feel a big difference in the hearing after we got this out. So maybe it doesn't need much further intervention for it anyway. It didn't like the worst case of glue ear I've seen, but it was quite retracted. You'll see afterwards anyway when we get this off. So we've sent a picture to the specialist so that they can make a decision what to do going forwards. But yeah, anyway, I went off track then, didn't I? The reason why she called it ginger earwax, because she was a lovely red-headed young girl. If anyone's watched any of my videos before, you'll know I've got a thing for redheads. I always have had. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But my wife's a redhead. A ginger, if you want to call it. She prefers the word strawberry blonde. But yeah, some of my favourite people are all redheads. So I did actually look into it because I thought if I'm going to do a video called ginger earwax, and because that's what the young girl decided to call it, so she knew it was hers. Hello to you if you're watching. I thought I'll just have a quick read up on people with red hair. And I was fascinated. I fell into a right wormhole. I'll probably not remember any of it correctly, but I was fascinated. I knew a little bit about it because of what my wife has said, you know, about melanin and pigment and what have you, and to do with a gene, a difference in a gene or a gene mutation. Don't ask me to go into the finer details of it. I'm not going to remember it all. Like I said, I've just quickly read a few little things. Have a look at this big chunk coming out here. And you'll see the retraction after this. Sorry, I'll go back to what I was talking about in a second, but she noticed a big difference as soon as this came out. But you'll see it's a little bit sucked in this eardrum, well, quite a lot actually. A lot clearer, obviously, than it was. So I sent that to the specialist, and they'll decide what to do from then on, from there going forwards. Second one is a chap, and I'll briefly explain. He had obviously 2 very bunged up ears. Very, very sticky consistency, very much like the young girl. We could get pretty much all of it out, a few little bits left behind, but it started squeaking a lot, and that's why we left it. So yeah, I read up on the ginger gene, if you want to call it that, because I was just curious to know whether this myth about redheads having more fiery tempers was actually true, because I've known a lot over the years. And I wouldn't say it particularly was. I hadn't noticed. My wife certainly hasn't got a temper. Not that I would ever dream of testing that theory. I would know how to, but I've never dreamt of testing that theory. But I couldn't see any evidence of that at all from what I read anyway about the temperament. Maybe a lot. Maybe some redheaded people are particularly angry because people are always coming up with names to call them because they've got red hair. But it's incredibly popular now, isn't it? It's funny how things work out. When we were at school, people unfortunately made fun out of people with red hair. which is ridiculous, isn't it? It's a beautiful colour. But now everybody wants red hair. I've even seen this TikTok filter going around with everybody with red hair. It all look amazing. So I haven't tried that filter on myself, by the way. It'd be a bit pointless. So anyway, I'm getting distracted again. So when I did look into it, this if there's any difference in temperament, all the articles that I came across weren't necessarily talking about that. They were talking about the issues with the skin and the melanin and burning in the sun quite more frequently, which is certainly the case from my wife. Turns into a lobster. But what I read was there's and whether it's true or not, I don't know. I didn't read enough to find out. Is the gene that causes the red hair apparently is quite closely associated with how you perceive pain. And there was a load of articles that said sometimes a lot of red-headed people are more frightened of the dentist because they need more anaesthesia, because they're more sensitive to it. And there's quite a lot of medical articles out there that did tend to go along with that. Some of the studies that they've done, and that they're more sensitive to painkillers. But I think it wasn't that they felt more pain or felt less pain, from what I could read out. Someone correct me on this, but it was different types of it, whether it's to do with they feel the hot or the cold a bit more than the rest of us. But any like local painkiller, any like numbing painkillers on the skin, it was less likely to work as well. I'm going to read up more on it anyway, because I found it fascinating. Whether a lot of it's true or not about these different pain thresholds, whether it's lower or higher, depends which article you read, to be honest, because some of it said it was lower, some of it said it was higher. But I think it's different types of pain is perceived, possibly. But if that's you out there and you're one of the ones fortunate enough to be blessed with a lovely strawberry blonde or an auburn or a full-on carrot top, then let me know what your experiences of it. I'd love to know more, to find out if all those things are actually true or not. It was fascinating when I read into it. I fell into a right wormhole. I'll probably have another read after I finish this anyway. Then I can tell my wife to stop complaining about this. You're not supposed to feel as much pain. Or it might be the opposite. Like I said, I really don't know. Anyway, while I've been waffling on, I thought you might find that interesting, because I did. I'm going to show you a few pictures of her as well, because she dyes it blonde. I told her to leave it as it was, go back ginger. So I've found some old pictures of her when she was a little, of her being with a lovely, beautiful red hair. So I'll show you them at the end. While I've been waffling on though, this procedure here got a bit difficult at the end, because as you've seen throughout, finding tube here, it's really sticky and it's quite stuck. It really doesn't want to come away easily. So what it's left us with is this bit pointing up, and every time I put the suction tube in that, it's more likely to squeak and squeal, clarinetting as it's called. The tube, it's basically flapping around inside the tube and it causes a whistling. But I decided to stop there because it wasn't significant. It's not going to affect his hearing in any way that he's got that little flap left there. But at some point you have to know when to stop. You don't want to cause any damage. So here she is. I think she was about 2 or 3 years old there, and a bit older there with a lovely, gorgeous red hair. She might see this, she might not. I think you should go back ginger if you are watching. But you look fabulous, whichever hair colour you are anyway. But yeah, let me know if you know any more about that in the comments, and let's have a chat, see what we can find out. But for now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later. Ta-da.